Hi, welcome and welcome back. Have you ever had a vision, a desire, or a dream for your life that was so strong, this really strong calling, and yet there's still resistance in areas where you're trying to move forward? It seems silly that we would have such strong desires to create our life and yet feel resistant to it, where it feels like this invisible block where we can't move forward. And even though we've done all of the mindset work and we regulate our nervous system, there still seems to be a block. And so I've sat with this myself, and I think everyone goes through this when they have something they want to put out in the world. What is it that is causing that resistance? And so I've learned that if we can resist the resistance and we can accept certain things that we can look at within us, then we're going to have a much easier time melting that resistance away, alchemizing it into energy to help us move forward and to keep the momentum, that creative flow through us and creating. And so, in order to flip the resistance, we have to be in full acceptance of everything, both that shadow side of us and the light side that helps bring it out of like what we're really fearing, what really is the hesitation, and how can we continue to hold both and move forward in that duality. So, let's break it down. Let's say you have a desire to create something in the world, and yet there's resistance to move forward with that. You've done the work, you know what you want, you see the vision, you have the purpose, you know there's something to offer, but there's still some resistance. And a lot of us are afraid, if not most of us, we're afraid to be not just seen, but judged. We're afraid to have judgment on us. We're afraid to be ostracized. We want to fit in. We want to be a part of the group. And sometimes it's fun to be outside and stand on our own and have a different kind of perspective. We want to be able to put our own creative work out into the world, and we don't want to deal with the judgment. We don't want to deal with the negativity, the backlash, and the response to whatever it is that we're doing. It's sacred to us. We hold it in this really protective environment and we want to keep it safe. However, we want to also share it with the world. And a lot of times it's hard for us whether we're actually putting some creative work out into the world or we're just putting ourselves out into the world, wanting something different and new. We're afraid of what's going to be the response to that. And so a lot of times there's resistance to it. And again, I think we've all had this experience. It's something that we get a little nervous, we get a little fearful. We have this idea that there's sort of this group of people that are going to judge us and they become these like monsters in the closet at night. And what we have to do is really pinpoint and look at who are these people that we are so worried about looking at us. And if you kind of break it down, that most people are in their own mindset, worrying about their own life. And if they do have comments or commentary about the things that you're doing, it's usually a reflection. What you're doing might be more outrageous, might be more courageous, bold, and daring for someone else. And they're responding to it. They might be triggered by it. They might say something about it. But there's also a lot of people that could really love what you do. There's a lot of people out there that may not even notice what you do, right? The idea here is that when we're putting ourselves out into the world and we have resistance, or we're putting things out into the world and we have resistance to that, what we're having resistance to is the acceptance of the full range of what that piece, what that project, or who we are and what we represent out in the world. What we have to understand is that for us to put something out into the world, we have to hold the capacity and the acceptance that all responses around the thing that we create or around who we are have a possibility of happening. And that doesn't take away from the fact and the purpose that you have bringing forth all of those ideas in that creation. It's really pivotal and important that we remember why we're doing the things that we're doing because we're creators and we're co-creators, and that's the goal. That's the whole point of having this life and this experience, is that we have more experiences and we try new things. And we have to separate ourselves and detach from the fact that everyone has that same opportunity. Everybody has the same opportunities to go online and to share themselves and to create the lives that they want to create. Those that can will, and those that feel stuck won't. And we all have varying degrees of us feeling like we can be very courageous and go forward in things, and sometimes we feel resistant. And so this is the point of this video. How do we start melting that resistance away? And if we can accept in contrast that we might be a trigger for someone else and they may have a rub up against what we might be putting out in the world, and it's such a small fraction of what greater things come out of that, but we somehow focus on this negative piece. If we can look at and understand that it still benefits those people, even if they don't like it, because they have something to react to. It helps give them a sharper focus about what it is they do like. And you also can see the type of people that you're attracting and not attracting and what it is that you bring. And you can start to then align even more to that soul tribe, to those soul connections, because you're now on that higher frequency, because you're in full expression. And so it's really important that we keep cultivating in the most micro ways, right? This isn't having some huge grandstand of a party to introduce yourself and who you are. It's in every single day and how we show up, how we engage, how we interact, and how we think about how we're creating things. A lot of times ideas get stuck in the mind because of these little roadblocks, these little bits of resistance of not making sure or trying to control reactions to people that we just never possibly could. And sometimes we also wait for the responses of people in hopes that we're going to get validation, and that isn't good either. And it's not good because we are then too dependent on other people to help give us the thing that we needed to have in the first place, which is where it all started from. That spark and that inspiration and that divine essence of creation that you want to put out into the world had nothing to do with anybody else but you and that connection that you have. You may have been inspired, intrigued, delighted by things around you. Something you saw may have sparked something in you. It may have even been something that gave you contrast. It gave you some sort of spark to get something in you ignited to move into a direction. And we do that for each other. And I think if we can start to see that we're not one separated from a whole, or we're not just different or distant from each other, that we're actually all one, and that we all get to have expressions, and they don't all have to be the same type of expression. They don't all have to be the same responses. And if we can allow the room for everyone to be whoever they want to be and allow ourselves to respond or not respond to whoever wants to react to us without any attachment, then we're much more in our own centered being. We're much more connected to our intuition and how we move through the world. We're much more connected to our sense of self, our sense of courage, our sense of dignity. We're much more in alignment for confidence, being able to continue to do the things that we want to do. And we're able to give ourselves the value that we need, the value that we see, irregardless of whatever response happens out in the world, because we're detached from any sort of responses that we have. And the only thing that we're responding to is that internal nodding yes, that internal sense of direction of letting us go where we're guided to go and allowing whatever to happen happen. When we can allow that full expression and that integration, when we allow ourselves to fully express who we are, then we allow others to express who they are in freely as well. It doesn't matter what the response is to what it is that you're doing, it's that you're doing it. And so the more we can keep allowing ourselves to step forward, even if we feel a little bit of fear, we're guided by that intuition, even if we feel a little resistance, we're still strong in our integrity and our integration and our embodiment of what we see for ourselves in our lives and how we want to move forward and how we want to bring new things into the world. And we just know that the act of creating itself is the reward and is the benefit. And you could be building things that will have a ripple effect years down the line. And it could be things that you build today that don't make any sense, but it's just calling you, that will have an effect and a benefit for you down the line on other projects that you're working on because you explored this area. You know, as soon as we allow ourselves to just flow, to flow and let the resistance go. And it's a practice, it's a daily practice, right? We have things that are nipping at our attention, things that are trying to get us to go in all these different directions. But I think it's really about just accepting the fact that people get to express themselves and you get to see all perspectives and point of view. And if you can hold the duality that you can be the most enlightened being and help people, and you could be someone's villain in their story, and you're still the same person, and you can still get up and do the same things and still build and see and be happy, what difference does it make? Right? What difference does it make? If you can stand in your own power, if you can hold the duality of the shadow side and the light side of who we all are, but if you can hold the duality of these two elements of yourself together, that there are things that you're afraid of and you're scared of and you're resistant to do, and the fact that you have this beautiful purpose in your life, and the fact that there are going to be people that respond in all different ways, and you can bring that all together and you can hold all of that at the same time and know that the whole purpose of any of this is so that you get to experience you. But that takes action, and that takes putting yourself and your ideas out into the world. And as soon as you have that encased, you can still move forward and you can resist any resistance because you know that it's just part of the experience. This is part of the purpose of doing it all. And you get to learn from all of it. You get to learn from the positive feedback and you get to learn from the criticism, or you get to dismiss it, or you get to understand that everyone's going to have their own take. And so if we can learn how to look at the resistance that we're holding within us and look at it specifically. What are we resisting? What is that specific thing that we're looking at? What is that specific thing that is holding us back, that is keeping a barrier in front of the thing, the action that we want to take? How do I flip that around? How do I make those people disappear? How do I replace those people in my head that I think are going to criticize me or judge me and put them with people that will love the things that I want to say, will love the creations that you want to put out into the world, will love who you are for being you? When you do things that have meaning to you, when you do things that you know you are obligated by your spirit to do, it puts you on a whole different level. It makes you become the star of your life, the celebrity of your life, and you take center stage. You're not just focusing on you as a person, but you're also looking at your self-development. And you're putting yourself on a stage because you understand your worth and your value, and you understand the power of your voice, the power and the wisdom that you have within you. And you know that we all started in the back. Every single one of us, if you can imagine a stadium, started in the back row, looking out, looking down. And the journey, the self-discovery journey, from the back of the bleachers to the center stage. Each one of us can take center stage in our life. But a lot of times, people just stay in the back because they think that's what they deserve. Stay in the shadows, stay in the back. We were all born in the dark. We'll die in the dark. We come from this womb, we come into the darkness, and we move into the light. So if you think about walking down from the back of the stadium to the center stage, each one of us takes this life journey as we get closer and closer, brighter and brighter, to being the focal point, to being the person that everybody enjoys. And even the biggest celebrities have polarity of people liking them and loving them and hating them. But we also, because they're the center stage, they're the main focus. That's what we're focusing on. And a lot of people don't want to do. So when we can integrate these two sides, the shadow side and this light side with us, and we're able to know that what it is that we want to create is so important to us, we put it out in the world. It doesn't matter what anyone has a response to. It doesn't matter what the response is to the thing. It's just that you put it out into the world. And it's so important because it's for you. This is how we develop the self, is by taking those ideas and putting them out into the world. And just think of everything as one big experiment. You're like a scientist, you're a creative scientist, you're an artistic scientist, putting things out into the world. And the more we can get practice in doing that, the more you get confident in doing that, the less resistance you're going to have to put out those things into the world. and we can minimize those voices. We can minimize that peanut gallery with all the little criticisms because everyone can have an opinion. Everyone does have an opinion. So why not have yours? Why not put your stuff out into the world and have your space and place, take up space, which is your stage, and you become the center focus in your life. I hope this message was of benefit and so that you can start to melt away any resistance and keep moving forward on your projects. If you need help moving through any projects, getting anything off the ground, getting out of stuck or burnt out energy, I have services and courses down below. Thank you all for being here. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.